So I've been using the OnePlus 10T for a week, and as usual when it comes to my full video reviews here in Lobo TV, I am not going to go into the specs too much, as in this video I'm going to be talking about my experience using this as my daily smartphone and let you know why this OnePlus 10T is better than you think. Now, since I've done the unboxing on my YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, here's a quick recap on the phone specs, so feel free to pause this video if you like to see them. Alright, let's look at the phone's design and build quality, and I have to be honest to say that I was a little skeptical at first whether or not I would enjoy the phone since it came with a glossier finish. And since I didn't get my hands on the OnePlus 10 Pro, I did not know what to expect using this OnePlus 10T. So after using the phone for about a week, I have to report that I absolutely love the phone's design and shape. Firstly, even though it was glossy, it didn't feel like it had a cheap glass material, where the rear Corning Gorilla Glass 5 cover did feel premium and nice in the hands, compared to other smartphones where even though it had a glass back finish, it felt plasticky, but that was not the case for the OnePlus 10T. Now, another very important fact of the phone is the fact that the camera bump and the body curved very nicely at the back of the phone. So it gave a nice seamless feeling, hence my hand did not feel like something was poking against my fingers, which again is something that a lot of phones tend to have. So the only color finish available here in Malaysia is this jade green color, as the Moonstone Black will not be coming to Malaysia as of now. But here is where this jade green was indeed something that really grew on me, as there was almost no smudges and the fingerprint was almost invisible on this bright and elegant finish. So the OnePlus 10T's display was another plus feature of the phone, as it comes with a stunning 6.7-inch FHD Plus Fluid AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080 by 2412 pixels and up to 120Hz refresh rate, where it does allow you to switch between 60Hz if you want to, but I obviously left it at 120Hz refresh rate to really enjoy this gorgeous and fluid screen. And since it is adaptive between 60Hz, 90Hz and 120Hz, which it did give me quite good battery life, which I'll go into later in this video. So I've tested the video capabilities with Netflix. The good news is that it has the maximum playback resolution of Full HD with Widevine L1 certification and HDR10 Plus support and native support for 10-bit color depth. So yes, the OnePlus 10T's display is definitely one of the prominent reasons for you to get the phone. Now on to the phone's cameras. Just as a recap, we're looking at a triple camera setup, a 50-megapixel Sony IMX766 f1.8 aperture lens with OIS, an 8-megapixel f2.2 ultra-wide lens, and a 2-megapixel macro camera. Then the front camera is a 16-megapixel f2.4 lens. Now, starting with the high 50-megapixel mode, not only were the images really high in detail and sharp, but the dynamic range was also really great in this mode. And of course, I wouldn't recommend this mode specifically, only if you like to zoom and crop into the pictures taken. Next, switching over to the ultra-wide lenses. Guys, just take a look at this particular picture. Not only that the dynamic range was stunning, but the focal length was really nice and wide without any barrel distortions on the sides. And the pictures was also pretty consistent when it comes to the colors throughout, especially when you go hand in hand with the main lenses. Now, speaking of the main lenses, if you thought that the ultra-wide lenses were great, take a look at this, as the dynamic range and the highlights was perfectly balanced without any sign of blowing out. Even at the lower contrast areas were nicely lit as well. And while some complain about the phone not having a dedicated telephoto lens, the pictures for the 2x digital zoom still look really good, and you can zoom up to 10 times if you really need to, which was great during bright daylight. Now, since smartphones typically do better on human subjects for the portrait mode, I intentionally decided to test the portrait mode with objects first. And as seen, the image captured was just flawless. And I love how the bokeh rolled from the subject to the overall background, where it did look really good as well. And what's nice is that since the camera has a high 50-megapixel sensor, you can get that real natural bokeh by getting closer to the subject, so you get more of a natural bokeh shots, just like how it is in this image. And since it did very well in objects, it did an excellent job for the portrait mode when taking photos of a person, with superb dynamic range of the blurred background areas where typically it would be overexposed on most smartphones. As you can see that it wasn't overexposed in this particular picture at the background areas. Then going into the macro mode, I'm not the kind of person who takes macro shots on a day-to-day basis. But here are some pictures for y'all to see if you're looking at taking some really good close-up shots. Now, another thing that impressed me was the nighttime images, as the ultra-wide and the main lenses produced some perfect balance of highlights and shadows, and I love how the skies were more color accurate in black compared to some smartphones which produce more of a bluish color for the skies. And I was also quite impressed with the night mode selfie too. Now, speaking of selfies, taking it during the day was impressive, as the skin tones, the highlight roll-off, and once again, the dynamic range was incredible. So it was for the portrait selfie, where you can see how prominent the age detection is, no matter if there's soft or any harsh daylight as well. Now, as for video, the rear main camera can record up to 4K 60 frames per second, and like the photos taken, the results were good, if not better over here, where the image stabilization was decent as well. Then the front camera maximizes at 1080p and the image stabilization was great, and the amount of dynamic range was quite mind-blowing that you could get from this front camera, as the video recording was done during a harsh daylight. Still, I could see the amount of blue skies available when taking video for this front video camera. Then if you like to take videos at night, both the rear and the front took some great footage with decent stabilization. So guys, overall, I have to say that the camera performance was quite good, and in my humble opinion, I felt like it was better than when they had the collaboration with Hasselblad. And do let me know if you also think so. And speaking of which, if you guys are enjoying this video, a nice big thumbs up would be very much appreciated, and a subscription would be awesome too. Now, let's talk about the software and the phone's performance using it daily. And the good news is that the OnePlus 10T never overheated even when I was taking photos and videos on a super hot day. It did feel warmed but never hot to the touch, which was such a significant improvement compared to when I reviewed the OnePlus 9. Now, of course, the next generation 3D graphite cooling system also played a huge part at this, with its 8 dissipation channels. So yes, the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset does very well over here, so that is such a piece of good news if you are totally worried about overheating. In terms of usability, the massive 16GB of RAM was indeed an influencing factor of how the Oxygen OS performed. And I didn't come to any point where there was any lag or stuttering even when I was opening over 35 apps, making multitasking super easy and seamless indeed. And with the Smart Link connectivity, it improves better system signal to avoid any network congestion. And with the 360-15 antenna system, it did get me way stronger Wi-Fi and cellular signal compared to other smartphones within this particular range. Now, I've always had a soft spot for the Oxygen OS, as it was one of my favorite Android skins, and I do miss using it on the phone. And most of all, I am super excited with the announcement of Oxygen OS 13, as during the keynote presentation, there'll be a whole revamping that will be done, and from the looks of things, it looks super minimal and clean, and it will be coming to this OnePlus 10T later on this year. So before we go into the phone's battery life, let's talk about how the phone performs during gaming. So the OnePlus 10T has the Hyper Boost gaming engine and the General Performance Adapter or GPA and the General Load Control GLC makes all the games load and had the performance at its optimum level. So I loaded up Genshin Impact with medium settings, 60 frames per second and motion blur turned off. And as expected, the game ran smooth with absolutely no lag or any micro stutter. There was no battery drain issues, and the heat management is definitely one of the best, as it went from 35 degrees to only 38 degrees after about 30 minutes of gaming. Then gaming on the phone was very comfortable due to its excellent finish and build quality as mentioned earlier. Then as for PUBG Mobile, it was at best at UHD graphics with the ultra frame rate, where the game was very optimized with very smooth movement and responsiveness and 720Hz touch sampling rate. Then the heat management, it was better than Genshin Impact, where the maximum heat of the phone only went up to 36 degrees. So having great battery management has always been one of the main focuses for OnePlus, and this is no different on the OnePlus 10T. As for the battery specs, it comes with a rather large 4800 mAh dual cell with 7C rating, and you can charge up to a whopping 150 watts thanks to its Super VOOC charging capabilities. And what's interesting is the fact that OnePlus does include a bigger 160 watts of charging adapter in the box. And based on my test, it gave me from 1 to 100% in just 18 minutes or so, which was super awesome to know. Now, if you're worried about the phone's battery health, well, don't be, because it has both the battery health algorithm that can track and control the maximum charging current to ensure that it is within safe range, and there's also the battery healing technology that ensures the most optimum charging performance that allows electrodes to be repaired during the charging cycles. And OnePlus has assured us that it can retain at least 80% of its battery health even after a crazy amount of 1,600 of charging cycles, which give and take is about 4 to 5 years of usage. And based on my daily usage, the battery drain was really good, as when I was averaging about 55% of battery left, I was getting an average of 5 hours and 29 minutes or so, and in total I got about 9 hours and 11 minutes of screen on time during quite a heavy usage, when I was around 10% battery with dark mode turned on and with a higher 120Hz refresh rate. So that, my friends, was pretty impressive. So in conclusion, OnePlus is certainly back for a long haul, and yes, it does seem like all I talk about is how I love the phone. So what is the negative point then? Well, the fact that the phone is missing the alert slider, at first I felt like that was a bummer. But since my phone is always on vibrate mode about 100% of the time, mostly on the table or in my pocket, I officially did not miss it at all. And I personally think that it's not even considered a negative or even a compromise, because the OnePlus 10T's build quality and the cameras are really great. And the fact that I've been using this phone every single day without any overheating issue is such a pleasant experience, which seems to be a huge problem for most smartphones out right now. Now, as for the price and availability here in Malaysia, the pre-order starts from now till the 31st of August. And the first sale will be from the 1st until the 9th of September, where it is available in Shopee, Lazada and selected offline dealer stores, where it comes with a price of only 3,199 ringgit. I feel that the OnePlus 10T is a no-brainer for you to have.